Alright, today you guys are going to be reading chapter 9 titled The Football Game. In this chapter, we see that Liz gets introduced to Marley's dad, and we also get another encounter with Sally and JT at the football game. By mid-September, the Supreme Court had decided that integration in Little Rock should proceed, but the schools still didn't open. For a while it seemed that with the high schools closed, there'd be no football too, but the public outcry was so great, the governor called the superintendent and told him to start up the football program again, school or no school. Daddy nearly turned purple when he heard this news. They'll let their kids go without an education, but Little Rock won't stand up for no football? Mother shrugged. She and Judy weren't fans, so they didn't care either way. It was certainly strange that football seemed more important than school, but I was glad they had decided to continue the football program. Friday night football games were something Daddy, David, and I have always done together. Even though he was upset, Daddy called David and asked if he wanted to go to the first game with us. David was actually just down the road at Little Rock University, but he was living in one of the dorms. Mother thought it was a waste of money when he could have stayed home, but Daddy had had too much fun when he was in college. He wanted his son to have the same experience. David was busy, having fun, I guess, so I asked Liz to join us. She was going to meet us at the game, and I was so excited I couldn't help bouncing up and down on the first seat. Elvis's Jailhouse Rock came on the radio, and Daddy winked at me and turned it up louder. Mother was always telling us to turn the music down. Liz was waiting for us by the gate. She yelled, "Marley," when she saw me, and ran to give me a hug. "Hi, Liz," I grinned. Daddy held out his hand for Liz to shake. "You must be the history partner," he said. She took his hand and shook it hard. "You must be the English teacher." Daddy laughed. "Did Marley tell you she's going to talk in front of the whole class?" Liz asked. Daddy glanced at me. "No, she didn't." "Liz!" I hissed. "You have to tell people," she said. "That way you can't back out." Daddy laughed again. "When Marley's ready to tell me, I'm sure she will," said Daddy. "Now who wants something to eat?" Daddy bought us popcorn and hot dogs for dinner. We gobbled them down and went to find seats in the bleachers. Every time one of the Central players made a good play, we screamed and waved homemade tissue paper pom-poms in the air. Daddy laughed and went off to talk to a colleague from work. JT was sitting a few rows in front of us. He was wearing a Little Rock Tigers varsity jersey jacket, probably Reds, and tufts of his blonde hair were sticking up as if he'd forgotten to comb it. I had an overwhelming urge to go and slick it down. Staring at the back of his neck isn't going to make him turn around and say hello, Liz said finally. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, come on," Liz said, laughing. "This is the perfect opportunity." I gave her a look. "The perfect opportunity for what?" "Well, you can't just talk to animals forever. We're giving the presentation to our class, which is made up of people." I didn't like where this was going. "And JT is in our class." Before I could protest, Liz pulled me up and practically pushed me down to the bleachers. "Go talk to him." I glanced back at her. She grinned and gave me a thumbs up. Maybe I could do this. All I had to do was say hello. I took one step forward, then another. I was wearing my cream sweater and that pleated shirt, which was really cute, and I kicked over someone's Coke bottle, leaned over to try to catch it before the glass broke, slipped, almost fell headfirst down the bleachers, and only managed to save myself by grabbing onto JT's jacket, which I pulled halfway off his shoulders before I finally landed at his feet. "Oh, hi, Marley," JT said, like the girls threw himself at him every day of the week. Who was I kidding? They probably did. "Enjoying the game?" I nodded and struggled to my feet. "Sit down," JT said. A big burly guy with slick black hair moved over to make room for me. He was wearing a t-shirt and leather jacket, and I didn't know him from school. Probably one of Red's friends, and he smelled funny, like a warm beer. I sat down between them. I was so nervous, all I could think about was the smear of ketchup on my cream sweater. It must have happened when I fell. At least Red was playing in the game, so I didn't have to sit next to him. "I'm really glad you stopped by," JT said. "I wanted to ask you something." Finally, after all those math problems, he was going to ask me on a real date. "What?" I said, looking up at him expectantly. It was the first time I had ever spoken to him. I thought about batting my eyelashes, but he'd probably just think I had popcorn or something in my eye. It's about the homework, JT said. The homework. Okay, maybe he really wanted me to tutor him. I could live with that. Liz would say it was good speaking practice and you're getting all the problems right. Well, of course I am. I thought that was the point. You can't do that. See, if I get them all right on my homework, but I don't do well on tests, Mr. Harding is going to get suspicious. I need you to throw in a couple of wrong answers here and there. Get more wrong? He could just do the homework himself if he wanted to get more wrong. Do you like the movies, Marley? He looked at me with big, smoky blue eyes. I nodded. I do too, JT said. But Mother won't let me go unless I keep my grades up. So right now my thinking voice is wondering why Marley's considering helping JT after he has already proved to her what a jerk he is. If I helped him, maybe someday he would ask me to come along. So, what do you say? JT cooed. Will you help me out? I nodded again. Great, he said, and grinned. See you on Monday? I smiled, stood up, and practically ran back to my seat. At least I didn't trip on anything this time. Liz patted me on the back when I returned. There you go, you did it, she cheered. Liz, I said. All I said was what? That's something. And I nearly fell into his lap. Yes, she said, but you did it gracefully. We both started to laugh harder and harder until my stomach started to hurt and Liz wiped tears from her eyes. You two sound like a pack of hyenas, said Sally. She was walking up the bleachers with her mother behind her. Who are your friends? Miss McDaniels asked. You know Marley, said Sally. Yes, of course. And this is Liz. She's new at school. Liz, this is my mom. Sally waved her hand in introduction. Hi, said Liz. Sally's mother gazed at Liz intently for a moment. I've heard a lot about you, Elizabeth. Liz blushed. Sally's been real welcoming to me. Glad to hear it. A woman in a large white hat, sitting a few rows behind us, waved in our direction. Well, it was nice to meet you, said Miss McDaniels, as she headed up the bleachers, but Sally sat down with us. What did you tell your mother about me? Asked Liz. I knew her well enough now to hear the annoyance in her voice. Nothing but the truth, said Sally. She flipped her hair and smoothed it down. Does my hair look okay? In a minute I'm going to talk to JT. Oh, said Liz casually. Marley already did that. Sally turned as red as the ketchup on my sweater, and I had to force myself not to start laughing again. So right now my thinking voice is really enjoying that simile. Sally turned as red as the ketchup on my sweater. It gives me a good visual as to how embarrassed Sally instantly got at the fact that Marley talked to JT when Marley has a hard time talking. It was dark when we drove home. You know, Daddy said quietly, I like that Liz girl. Me too. Are you? He paused. Are you really going to speak during that presentation? I think so, I said. Daddy patted me on the shoulder, and when I glanced back at him, I could see the pride in his eyes.